I'd like to welcome everybody here today to our session on flipping your classroom using Active Classroom. I am Dr. Aaron Willis from Social Studies School Service, and our presenter today is Michael Hutchison. Michael's an experienced educator who's been working for years in the field of history education. I'll let him commit personally to how many years that might be when he begins his presentation. But Michael has a lot of experience and has been working using digital resources to change the way he teaches history and government probably for about the past decade or so. So we're excited to have Michael here with us today to share some of his experiences with you, and we hope that you'll be able to benefit from that. Michael, I'm turning it over to you then, and take it away.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. As Aaron mentioned, this afternoon our session will deal with flipping. I say the U.S. history class, but it doesn't necessarily have to be U.S. history. It could be, in my case, U.S. history and government. The same thing would work for economics or any subject that you're teaching. So let's start out by talking about questions. If you have questions you'd like to ask, as you probably already noted, Aaron's muted the microphone to everyone's microphone to eliminate background noise. If you have questions that you'd like to ask during the chat session, you can see, or our session, you can see the chat area at the right. So feel free to ask any question you would like. Let's start out this afternoon. Make sure that everyone can access the chat window. Would you please type your geographic location, where you're from, and watch you teach in the window, and we will observe. So if you'll go ahead and do that now while I continue with the session, that'd be great. Aaron and I will be watching for questions that you might ask. Okay, I see Greg's answered and Aaron has. And then I'll also have some time at the end of the session that we can work on answering questions if you have anything. So let's talk a little bit about me. As Aaron said, I can tell you some things about my personal experience with education and so forth. Aaron was, I guess, a little bit too kind. I am currently in the middle of my 38th year in the classroom. So I've been lucky enough to work for not only for Aaron, but for some other organizations such as PBS. I've done work on several of Ken Burns films, providing curriculum for that, as Greg has also. So that includes things like the Roosevelts, the war, the Civil War, and other films as well. So let's start out this afternoon with some definitions about what a flipped classroom is. And so you probably have heard the term before. Two chemistry teachers on the West Coast by the name of Bergman and Sams first kind of developed this idea. What a flip model is you flip what you normally do in the classroom. In other words, typically you might use your classroom time to lecture and have the students do homework, etc., at night when they are home. This does the exact opposite. And what the students do is they do their projects, they do exercises or homework or whatever during class time. The logic for this is it allows the teacher to be more involved with hands-on activity, and whether it's a homework assignment or if you're working on some kind of project together. And the logic there is that the teacher can be more a guide than someone who's just dispensing information to the students. What I do is probably more like a blended learning, where you have some of the typical lecture components of the classroom, but you also have some flipped classroom assets involved as well. For example, today in my U.S. history classes, I pretty much was a lecturer, and the reason why we are preparing for a test, so I reviewed with them. So I asked them questions about what would be on the test tomorrow. So I was pretty much the sage on the stage instead of the guide on the side today. So let's talk about the tools that I use and some tools that you can also use as far as developing a flipped classroom. So obviously some of you are very familiar with this. This is Active Classroom search page. I use Active Classroom for all of my classes. At this point in time, I'm teaching 2 sections of regular government, 2 sections of regular United States history, an AP government class, and a dual credit U.S. history class. So I use Active Classroom for all of it. I have created video lectures, and I use Camtasia for that. Camtasia is a video capture software. It's available on both Mac and PC. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I use Google Drive to save or to store my material. Google Classroom is an excellent resource. I'll discuss that a little bit more also. I use that to um, inform students of what's available, links to my Google Drive, that sort of thing. And then the school office for things like PowerPoint, and the school network I use because I have to store them somewhere online. So let's talk a little bit about creating videos. This is a typical main Camtasia for Mac screen. I'm pretty much a Mac person. I have an iMac at home, and we have iMacs at school as well. So what I use for my scripts are backward planning unit slides, and I will show you one of those in an upcoming slide as well. But I love them because it pretty much is the backbone of my curriculum. It allows me to teach. In this instance, I'm doing Depression and New Deal. Everything I need is in the unit, whether it's individual slides, whether it's review questions, whether it's projects. So I've used them for a number of years. And as I said, my screencast software is Camtasia. The 10-minute rule, I would highly suggest that you limit your videos to 10 minutes, mainly for two reasons. Reason one is because you have to think of what the average attention span of a student is, and reason number two is because of bandwidth. So if you can keep your videos below 10 minutes, that's fine. Remove all the animations, and the logic there is that gives you more control over how long each slide lasts and how long your videos last. I use a USB microphone and headphones to record my videos, and matter of fact, I'm using it right now. The sound is a little cleaner. The headphone is a little more expensive. I bought mine at Walmart for, roughly about $35. But I like it a lot better, and I think the sound quality is better, and I think the other thing is that you eliminate a lot of the background noise. One thing I would definitely suggest that you do is don't feel the need to be perfect. If I had to start over on a video anytime I said or well or something like that, I would never get anything done. We certainly don't do that in the classroom. If I say or let me check on that or something in the classroom, I don't start my lecture from square one again. As I mentioned, I use Active Classroom's backward planning units for my U.S. history. So this is a sample backward planning slide. I'm sure many of you are familiar with these. You've seen them countless times before. And one thing that I really like about it is each slide has a narration at the bottom. So as you can tell in this slide, this is FDR's first inaugural address. I show a picture of FDR with Hoover in the car as they're riding to the Capitol building, and I give bullet points, but below there's a lot more information. That allows me to have a script. If I want, I can just simply read what's on the notes page. I can ad lib, I can edit, I can do whatever I feel I need to do. So as far as you having as a teacher to sit and write out scripts for every slide that you want to do, you really don't need to do that. So let's talk about saving the videos. As I mentioned before, I use Google Drive for mine. So what Camtasia does is Camtasia allows me to save my videos in a Camtasia format. However, I convert them to MP4, which is a video format. The reason why I do that is simply because it makes it more easy for anyone with any kind of video software, whether it's QuickTime or Windows Media Player or whatever, to actually open the file and see what's there. I should say probably right off the bat, I do use videos. A lot of teachers with flipped classrooms use videos. It's not a necessity to do so. For example, you could just simply assign slides 1 through 10 to your students for the next day. Have them look at the slides, have them read the notes page, and go from there. So if you don't feel comfortable with doing video, if you don't want to spend the money to do video, there are some free screencast software products out there. Stratomatic is one. There's others. In the handout that Aaron and I talked about earlier that will be made available via email, I give you links to some of those. But you don't have to. So if you don't feel very comfortable about having, like me, having your voice on on video or whatever, you can always get around that. You can use Dropbox. As a teacher, you should be able to get unlimited Google Drive storage. Dropbox is a little different. It's not unlimited, so I would avoid it if I possibly could. So if you're not sure whether you get unlimited Google Drive storage, you should. If you are a classroom teacher and using a school email address, you might also check with your IT department and make sure you get it. So let's look a little bit, just real quickly, at Google Classroom next. This is a sample screen for Google Classroom. I don't have any video content on the screen. I just kind of put this in just so you'd have an idea of what Google Classroom look like. So as you can tell, it gives me an opportunity to put assignments up there. I can upload files. I can link to video. I can make announcements. I can upload assignments. A lot of times when I'm doing an active classroom assignment, I use the direct link. I put that on Google Classroom so the student can click that automatically. So another feature of Active Classroom that a lot of people aren't really aware of, and to be honest, I don't use it as much as I probably could or should, classroom forums. The reason why I suggest classroom forums, they are a part of Active Classroom. Some of you may use them, or some of you may be familiar with them at least. And I wanted to have, for a distance learning class, reflection questions and assignment questions so that the students could interact with each other, they could interact with the teacher. The forums are a great way to do that. So I can post a question and students can interact by answering that question, replying to other students, that sort of thing. Depends on the caliber of your student, the makeup of your class, how well this works. I got away from using the forums a little bit. I don't know if any of you use the forums, but certainly, it might be something to think about that I'll bring back next year. While we're talking, Lisa asked me about prep time on average. Well, I would say at first, you probably have to spend a little bit of extra time because you have to, if you're using video, you have to make the video. But with Active Classroom, a lot of that is basically done for you because you have the activities. You can assign the activities. You can use the scripts or the whatever for your for your narration, and certainly that makes it a lot easier. So I'll be honest, with the number of years and the number of years that I've used Active Classroom, I generally don't spend a tremendous amount of time. I am a person that likes to use a lot of time in the morning before school, so I would say probably about an hour before. I would also say maybe a little bit of time after school. So I hope that answers your question, Lisa. If you have anything else, don't hesitate to ask. Let's talk about making assignments. As I mentioned, I make assignments electronically with Active Classroom. Probably a good number of you do the same. So the students can access Active Classroom to see the daily assignments and see the content, so they know, what the assignment is. So, for example, tomorrow I'm doing an assignment with them after they're done with their test. It's a reading activity, President Roosevelt and the WPA. So I've already made that assignment available, but it's not going to be visible. It's not unlocked, if you use that term, until tomorrow whenever they come to class. So the students can complete their assignments electronically. As a selling point for Active Classroom, you can definitely save a tremendous amount of paper by doing assignments digitally and doing them online. I'm notified whenever a student submits an assignment, and I can also provide feedback to students as well. So let's talk a little bit about evaluating work. I mentioned the feedback in the last slide. I can establish the amount of points I want to give for that particular assignment. The grades can be recorded in Active Classroom. We use as our student management system. We use PowerSchool, so I don't know if any of you are using something similar. So I generally just record my grades in PowerSchool. That way the students can see them, see their results a little more quickly. However, I can also send feedback. And there's also a parent portal. I will be honest with you, I do not use the parent portal very much, mainly because the students should have access to PowerSchool, so they should be able to see what the students are doing there. I guess also they would have access to Google Classroom. So let's talk about how Active Classroom can fit in a flipped classroom environment. And like I said, I realize that some of you know as much about all this as I do already because you are Active Classroom users. But my school is 1-to-1 student computer ratio. Our seniors have iPads. A few years ago, we decided to get away from iPads, so we went to Chromebook. My students then, we have more flexibility to use Active Classroom because all the students have some kind of a device. I can assign an activity anytime. For example, the one I mentioned about President Roosevelt and the WPA, I assigned it during my prep period, or actually I assigned it after school today, and it's available tomorrow. I can do it right before class. I can do it the night before. I can do it during class even if I want to. So it gives me a lot of flexibility. I don't have to run to the copy machine. I don't have to look up something in my file cabinet because I know where most everything is. As I mentioned, students can submit work electronically and seamlessly. They just hit the submit for review button and I get their material and I can evaluate it based on that. I can use the grading interface, and I actually made an error here. There are not hundreds of activities, there are thousands. So I can use any of those. I can also make my own if I want to and upload those. So let's take a minute and look at some of the sample activities that I use for Flipped Classroom. This is a good example of one that I just used the other day, Roosevelt's Fireside Chats. Some of you may be familiar with this one if you teach U.S. history. I really like it. The students have to go to this website in order to find the activity. This is a fireside chat that Roosevelt gave relatively early in his term of office. And as you can see, there are questions that the student just enters the information in the box, and then they continue to answer the questions. I didn't show the entire set of questions, but I showed the first 4 here. This is another activity that I've used and really like. It's a series that's called Government Activators. And some of you may be, if you teach government, you may be familiar with this one. I really like this series and I use it every semester for every unit that I do. This is one that I used last semester on procedural due process rights. So you'll notice that it starts out with a historical background essay. And it gives the students terms and it gives the students things that, you know, I bring up in lecture as well, or I bring up in the slides in the government PowerPoints. And so from there, what the students can do at that point is they can answer the critical thinking questions that go with the background essay. I like this one too because there's all kinds of case studies. I can put students in groups. I can have them do this individually. So different court cases that they have to analyze. Sometimes what I do with this one, if I want to just make it group work, is I will just print them out, and I should mention that there's a pretty comprehensive teacher's guide that you can print out everything that goes with this activator. So you can print out the historical background essay, you can print out the questions, there are teacher instructions that are there that you can print out as well. And so I actually will take the case study, the court cases, and I will tape them on the wall in my classroom around the room. So what students will have to do is they will have to go from station to station, and they will have to see what the case is about, and they fill out the forms. So that's just a little bit of a you know, just a spin on what, you know, we might do otherwise in the flipped classroom model. Today I did the one on federalism with my AP students, and there's a graphic organizer they had to fill out about what powers of government are state, federal, or local, and we just did that in class. This is one that I'm doing right now also with my dual credit U.S. history students. And this is from a series called Debating the Documents. And again, if you teach U.S. history, I would highly recommend this one. There's also a series of Debating the Documents for world history as well. This one is on the impeachment of Andrew Johnson. The class I teach is a dual credit class. It's a survey level class, which they get credit not only from high school U.S. history, but they get credit from our local junior college. So with this one, you'll notice that the students answer a DBQ, document-based question. And this one is, was Andrew Johnson guilty, or was he a victim of an unprincipled political witch hunt? Hard to believe that politics would enter into a presidential impeachment. However, the students have to at first look at various documents. In this instance, some of them are visual documents. They are cartoons. Others are text-based documents. They have to analyze those documents. If I want, we can actually debate the documents in class. And then what I'm doing right now, we did our debating the documents yesterday, and tomorrow they're going to turn in the essay, the document-based question. The reason why I do it that way, even though I could do it in active classroom, is because as a college level class, I feel the students need to be able to write persuasively. I need to be able to mark their copy up. So I like to have a paper copy of an essay like that, so I have an opportunity to actually review it more effectively. So let's talk a little bit in kind of a summary about the benefits and challenges of a flipped classroom. In other words, what's good about it, what might we find as a stumbling block, and just overall what we have to consider. And I'm going to kind of go back to the question that Lisa asked me a few minutes ago. I realized that flipping was interesting. I thought at first that it was basically a science thing and that it probably would not work well with history, but I gave it a try and I felt like it worked, very well. I had good administrative support. I talked to my principal before I started this. I also talked to the counselor in our building, and they were very supportive as well, so I felt I had a good foundation to do it. I also felt that there was some possibility of some parent concerns. I'm not lecturing as much anymore as I used to. Those never materialized. I would imagine probably depending on where you teach and the socioeconomic background of the students in the community, you may find something very, very similar. And as I mentioned multiple times in our session, I had a good foundation, an excellent foundation with Active Classroom. It probably would have been much more difficult and maybe even impossible to do this without having that kind of a foundation to have in my corner. And I am a technology person. Probably I know enough about technology to be dangerous, but I enjoy using technology, and so that makes it easy for me to do these things as far as, using Camtasia, doing video, Active Classroom, that sort of thing. So let's move on to the benefits. What is there? Why do we want to maybe consider going to a flipped classroom model? Well, one of the big advantages is that absent kids, those on field trips, in-school suspension, doctor's appointments, and I believe everybody in here can probably, commiserate with me about those kinds of things. They can still hear lectures, they can complete assignments, and stay up to date because everything is online. So they can just download the video or look at the slides, and they are up to date with what we're doing in the class. Most of our students are digital natives. They grew up with technology. They don't know what it's like not to have a phone, or not to have a smartphone, or not to have an iPad or a Chromebook or a computer or Wi-Fi. I didn't get my first computer until I was nearly 40 years old. So we are digital immigrants. That doesn't mean we can't use technology, but it does mean that, maybe the learning curve is a little different for us. So because of that, Flipped classroom tends to keep students more completely engaged. They're doing things on their own terms, they're doing things more technology based, and that definitely is an advantage. And as I mentioned before, it allows me to use Active Classroom more effectively because I can use it in the classroom more than I can as far as in just in a setting where I have them do homework. Now there are some challenges. Flipping can be more time intensive, at least at first. You have to plan. You have to be able, if you're going to do the videos, you have to have time to do the videos. I was somewhat overly critical of myself on the first videos that I did when I first started, and so I would stop, I'd delete, I'd start over, I'd stop, I'd start, delete, I'd start over, and then I got to a point where I thought, well, you know, I mean, I wouldn't be perfect in the classroom. Why would I want to be perfect here? You do also have to acclimate the students a little bit to it, but I think that is pretty simple to do. Unfortunately, you know, a little bit of Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong. You will have the occasional technology glitch. Something may come up. A kid may not have his iPad with him that day. He may have not charged it. The Wi-Fi may be down. I mean, any other thing. So, and that leads me to another point, which is in some instances, if a student doesn't have home access, you have to adapt to that. So if you go back to the slide that I showed you all about the government activator, for example, if you have to, you can print all this out. So you could print out the historical background essay. You could print out the questions, and a student could do those at home if they had to, or you know, you could print out the slides, that sort of thing. You do need administrative support. I would say that it would probably be in your best interest to at least check with your principal and find out, you know, what his view or her view is on it and go from there. We are running a little short on time, so let me end up by telling you some things about information. If you would like to find out more about any of the things that I talked about today, as far as the tools, okay, everyone knows Active Classroom, I'm sure, but there's the address for Social Studies School Service. If you're interested in Camtasia, Camtasia is from a company called TechSmith, and there is their website. I'm not exactly sure what the cost of Camtasia is now. I believe I want to say the educational buy price is about $95. I'm not sure on that, but if you go to the site, you might check. As I mentioned, there are free screen capture and screencast tools out there. If you want to try one of those, you certainly could. Google Drive is free, but as I mentioned, you might check on your school account to see if you get unlimited storage space. Google Classroom is also free. I'm not sure if your district has to sign up for that or not. You might check again with your administration or your IT staff to find out if you have Google Classroom. I could be wrong. You may be able to get it on your own as a classroom teacher, but as I said, Google has to be able to recognize you with a classroom or school email address. If you'd like information about me, if you'd like to contact me about anything that I mentioned in the session this afternoon, my email address is there. I have my own website, and it's located there. And that, if you want to do a Donald Trump and tweet me, that's my Twitter handle. So that is pretty much the end of my session for this afternoon, and I went through things rather quickly, but if you have any questions, anything you would like to ask me, please feel free and type your comments or questions in. I'll be more than happy to answer them if I can. While you are doing that, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, I'm going to back out of the presentation and just mention this is the handout that will be available for all of you. And this is fairly long, so you may want, if you want to print it, it will take probably several pages, but it goes a little bit more in detail about the tools, why I went to a flipped classroom model, how the flip model works, and some things that might be of use to you as you go on your journey to flipping your classroom or going to a blended classroom model. So Aaron, I have pretty much finished the session unless anyone has any questions.
Michael, I wanted to thank you very much, and I see Greg's question. We will email the handout to you soon thereafter. We're trying to figure out a way for you to download it from here, but we'll send that over to you, Greg. So thanks for asking. And once again, Michael, this was an excellent presentation. I think you gave everybody a good idea about how you've set this up and how you've worked through it. Why don't you stay online and let's see if any other questions come up. But I want to thank you again and applaud your efforts. So really
thank you, Aaron.
that.
Sure, thank you.